You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pinkus and André Prue.
Hello, Michael.
André, this is like one of the first podcasts that we haven't been in the same room in 6 months.
And it's the last podcast that we're going to be doing until we're able to get into the same room for 6 months.
Yes.
You're about to go on an excellent adventure.
Yes, that's what I'm calling it. That's what I'm going to film it as.
So it'll be Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You're going to be traveling with, I'm going to call him a friend of the podcast, Christer Bicklum, highly respected wine writer in Norway.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
He is the number one Bordeaux writer for that country. We're going to be doing Bordeaux in January for January.
So who's Bill and who's Ted?
I don't know. You'd have to look at us both, I guess, and figure it out.
Is this one of those things, too, where, I know I tease you about your cultural icons. Is this where the Venn diagram overlaps? Because I love those movies, a lot.
See, I don't.
You don't? Come on. Wild Stallions?
I like George Carlin in them, but I like George Carlin.
George Carlin's excellent in them.
Yeah.
All right.
The lovable idiot thing doesn't really go for me. Well, I guess it does, because
dude, you've been putting up with me for almost a decade. If that's not lovable idiot, I don't know what is.
I guess goes somewhere along the lines. But yeah, then I'm also going to check out some places in Italy like Nizza, and I'm looking forward to checking out the wine world in Europe while North America burns.
Oh man, I'm hoping it's not going to be as bad as people think, and I know people have said that they don't want us to be political on this podcast, but man, what the hell were they thinking south of the border?
I have no idea. I can't even start.
You know what? Let's just dive right into it. You and I, one of the last things we did, actually, this is, I guess, a bit of a wrap up of the stuff you and I did together over the last week. I head to Portugal. We're recording this November 15th, just so the references of today, tomorrow aren't lost when this actually gets posted. I'm heading to Portugal on the 17th. You're heading to Italy on the 17th, and we'll be getting to Bordeaux, blah, blah, blah. You're geared out. I mean, thank you to everyone who has supported this podcast over the years. Being blunt, our total incomes from Patreon are maybe 30, sometimes $40 a month. So this is, I guess, a year-end call out that if you're feeling generous, support the Two Guys Talking Wine, patreon.com/Two Guys Talking Wine. Michael and I run a very modest operation here. I'm sure everyone has noticed, if you go back to episode 1 versus where we are now, things sound a hell of a lot better. And that has been thanks to your support. We are sending Michael to Europe with a mobile studio.
A full contingent of microphones and stands and windsocks and
I mean, and unlike the CBC, we are not funded by Justin Trudeau, so we rely on your support to make sure that we can buy little bits of equipment here and there. So I'm really excited to hear how things are going to sound. So patreon.com/Two Guys Talking Wine. Let's get that mention off at the beginning, and I will put the link to the Patreon in our show notes so you can check that out.
We should probably say something about it at the end as well, just so it's bookended.
You and I, we got together on November 9th. And we tasted 300 wines over a 10-hour period.
Yes, along with breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's right.
Yep.
This
so that people don't think we're just powering through 300 wines shot without like a slice of bread. And your wife's brioche is amazing.
Yes, it is. Visit Chaton in the Hamilton Farmers Market downtown if you haven't already. But you and I are once again writing the Toronto Life gift guide for anybody listening to this podcast. This is guides. Yeah, that's right. There's 3 guides. This is a bit of a preview because they're going to be rolling out over the month of December, but we thought we would give our loyal listeners a bit of a preview of what we tasted. And do you want to dive into it? I've got the list in front of us, but we actually haven't written our tasting notes yet.
No, we haven't written them, but we did. We have picked out what is hopefully going to be in the guide. And I'm wondering if we should do the bubbling under ones or if we should talk about the ones that we think are going to be definitely in the guide.
No. You know what? Let's start with bargain and roll through it. And let me just say, like, I guess first off, as a bit of a tease, as someone who's been focusing on Ontario for writing for most of his career up until like you and I have really started to focus on international, I was tremendously proud. And as much as I'm critical of the LCBO and the selection at the LCBO, we found a few really, really great Ontario wines across all three categories in the Toronto Life gift guide.
Yeah, so if everybody doesn't know what the categories are, there's bargain, bargain is now under 25, believe it or not. When we started this, it was under 20, but it's now 25 and under. A gift is 25 and over, and then of course sparkling is just anything with bubbles in it, for the most part.
But you know what? Let's dive through. We're not going to go through the whole list, but like let's just go through some of the real highlights of what we enjoyed. And we did move the needle a little bit on bargain wines. It has up until now been $20 and under. We moved the needle to $25 and under. It's just frankly that's where things are going.
Although I'm still noticing that on our list, only 2 or 3 were over 20, which is pretty impressive. Right.
Well, but why don't we go to the first
bargains under 20?
Well, why don't we go to the first one here? I mean, this one was a clear standout. I know over the years on this podcast, I have been fairly critical of Merlot and its place in Ontario, and our most listened to episode with Alan Jackson of Jackson Triggs, where he talks about how he thinks Merlot is Niagara's grape. Peninsula Ridge Beale Vineyard Merlot 2020. For $21.95 is available. It is a vintages wine, not a general list wine. But like, man, oh man, was that ever a stunning welcome addition to this roundup of bargain wines?
Yeah, I've always found that Ontario Merlot needs a little time, but this one seems to be nice, ripe, and ready. And it's the 2020 vintage, so really, I don't want to keep heaping praise on this vintage because it makes it sound like, Mother Nature is never going to give us another vintage like it. And God, we hope she does.
Listen, she will. Like, I sort of understand your logic, but like, we should celebrate it. But I'm with you. The versatility and consistency of the quality of wines from Ontario deserve more credit than what Mother Nature did in 2020. I don't know about you, but I've really been enjoying the 2021's Chardonnay and Pinot Noirs a hell of a lot more than the 2020s.
A little too rich, a little too ripe, a little too Californian in style. Although they have their place, kind of. I do like the 21s. They are, yeah.
The 2020, though, especially the Bordeaux varietals, I think what Mother Nature gave us was just more balance than what we've ever seen in like 2016, 2012. We could roll through all the hot vintages, but Merlot, if there's a year to grab Merlot, it's from a 2020 vintage.
Yeah. The now, obviously, I don't want to turn this into a Chardonnay podcast again.
Yeah,
but there were I thought 2 really good Chardonnays in the bargain category.
Yep.
And one shocked me for its price and where it was from.
Me too.
And the other one came as no shock at all.
Yeah, I mean, just explaining, I guess, the method of which we taste is important because this is the 3rd year that the Cave Spring Chardonnay has made the list. I think maybe even 4th. It's almost like it's a perpetual favorite. But like, for me, it's really kind of bizarre because every time that bottle shows up, I think we have a disposition that we know it's going to be good. But like, we do bring in some third tasters to make sure you and I aren't completely full of crap. And it's just like the Cave Spring Chardonnay is one where there was serious consensus around the table for $17.95. It like knocked our socks clean off in terms of value, in terms of quality, in terms of price.
That day, it slaps.
It slaps. That wine slaps, as John Oliver would say. It's amazing. I don't think Cave Spring gets the credit that they deserve with what they do in the portfolio. And like, I'm sorry if anyone at Cave Spring is listening, please don't raise the prices of your wines because you guys are quickly becoming the flagship for quality to price. And at under $20, making a killer Ontario Chardonnay, like that's just magic, man. Yeah,
that was really good. The other one was from Australia, and I'll be honest with you, Andre. We looked at it. Label's nice, everything's good on it. It's got a great little story to it.
Crazy, like lightweight glass, like it feels like a bargain wine, and I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Yeah, no, it feels like you could juggle like 10 of them, and I was like, there's no way and for $10, though, 1 pound per acre Chard from Australia. That's, for a Chardonnay fan like you, you even went, wow, that's really good. Really, I don't think you said really good juice, but I mean,
I may have said that, but I mean, it is the polar opposite of what Cave Spring offers. And for as much as you give me a hard time for my love of Chardonnay, being someone who loves warm climate versus cool climate, it does let me appreciate the difference. And for $9.95, if you're looking for that unctuous, really like texture driven, affordable Chardonnay, like I'm going to be buying some for over the holidays. Like, it's the sort of thing where when you're having a large get together and most of the people around the table don't really give a crap about wines, it's something where you'll make sure that you have something that you're really going to enjoy, but also everybody else at the table is going to enjoy, and you can pour it without, worrying about what people think.
And really, I have to think that is what the bargain wine list is all about, is to find you something that you're going to enjoy. I think we should highlight one more from this list and then move on.
Okay, we'll see what you say, because there's one I want to. Well, actually, there's a couple I want to highlight, but we can move through them a little bit quicker.
Okay, so there was one that we tried that was really early on in the red tasting, which is the Tavernello at $10.05. I think we were all just kind of blown away by that, and it just continued. Like, it was one of the first wines we tried in the red category, and it just stayed there, and we kept going back to it, tasting it a couple of times to make sure that we weren't just crazy. And for $10, like that paired with that 1 pound per acre, that's $20 worth of wine right there, because the other $10.05, $9.95, your $20 set of wine that for any dinner that would be great for your red fans, your white fans. It's great, and that one's from Italy.
Well, and like, so just to give people a bit of an idea of the method of how we did this, so we had 176 wines to taste in the bargain category. We tasted them together all side by side, and we sort of pulled out which ones we liked and kind of narrowed it down. We didn't do like brackets or anything, but it was just like, we know we have limited space in Toronto Life to be able to put these wines. But yeah, like, most of these wines were tasted 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times before we really narrowed down the list. So, let us assure you, this is what we hope you trust our palates. I mean, you're here, you're listening to this, so these are wines worth getting. The last one I want to mention is another perpetual label that you and I really dig. We've had him as a guest on the podcast. Zante's Footsteps. We actually couldn't narrow it down to one. Like, Chocolate Factory's one that's been a perpetual favorite of mine. I have a little vertical of it in my basement, but made by a Canadian in Australia, terroir-driven Australian wines, under $20 a bottle. So obviously, Chocolate Factory is making an appearance again, but a new addition is a Love Symbol Grenache. You and I are going to write a nice little note about the Canadian connection for this wine and recommend that people get both of them.
And as I was just reading, we tried the 2021. I see that the 2022 is also coming out through Vintages late November. I would just recommend people pick up that, because if you're worried about what Grenache is, it is really a juicy on its own. I mean, it's really
it was a raspberry bomb.
Yeah, it's a juicy raspberry bomb. Throw it in the fridge for half an hour. It gets even better. Like, it's a shockingly good wine when you get one well made on its own, and not in a blend with Tempranillo and Mourvedre and all the other stuff that they can throw in with it.
All right, let's take a quick look at our sparkling wines. This category is always tough, just because when we save it for last, because we know it's going to just destroy our palate with acid. I don't know what else to say. It's a tough category to judge, but like, the good news is, like, the good ones really stand out. Yep. The bad ones also really stand out. This is the one where Ontario is least represented. The Cave Spring Blanc de Blanc made the cut. Just if we write this again next year, and hopefully we write it, if you're working for a winery in Ontario, if you have a sparkling wine listed there, it's a good opportunity to get your wines in Toronto Life, because we didn't get a lot of Ontario sparkling this year.
We didn't get a lot of Ontario. We didn't get a lot of Ontario serious sparkling. I want to say that. Look, there are the wines like Fresh, and they have their place, but they're not going to beat out a Bollinger. Do you know what I mean?
I plead the fifth.
But, we did have, as you said, the Cave Spring Blanc de Blanc. The other Ontario one was the Toss Sparkling Ridge Limestone Riesling.
That was a stunner. That was absolutely
stunning. On that, boom. Looking through it, there's definitely, some good champagnes here. Gosset, Bollinger.
I think I do think the Gosset was my favorite, and it's quickly becoming my favorite. And it's just been nice to see that perpetually available at the LCBO. Not for the faint of heart at $85 a bottle. No. But, once again, this comes down to if your go-to is Veuve Clicquot, you're being seriously ripped off. There's so much better champagne at a few more dollars. Bollinger at $99.95 is always like a rich, brioche bomb that it's just fun to drink. I think you and I, we celebrated the end of this tasting of 300 wines, both with a glass of the Bollinger to finish it off.
Yeah, it's always a stunning wine. A couple of new additions to the list. Montez comes out with Angel's Brut.
Yep,
that was really good. I was really hoping it would show well, and it did. So I was happy with that. Just kind of looking into the bargain categories. There was one called Happy Holidays Moscato Spumante, which
you and I were in a Moscato mood that day. I don't want to bury the lead, but make sure you check the list. But there are 2 Moscato Dasties that made the list. I think you and I just had a bit of a sweet tooth that day or something.
I love Moscato. It has always been a guilty pleasure on my list that I don't tell a lot of people to. I also find it very expensive because I have been to Piedmont and I have tried Moscato there, and when you see it at €2-3 a bottle, and then when it gets here it's $20. It's a hard square to circle. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a tough one.
It's why when we interview winemakers, I always ask them what it costs in their market, and then I try to put that number out of my mind. Like, I'm really looking forward to being in Portugal next week so I can drink some Vino Verde for 3, 4, 5 euros a bottle, as opposed to the $15, $16, $17 a bottle that we get them for here. I'm not sure if I'm going to find it, but hopefully I can find a good deal on some tawny ports, like not the 10 or 20 year tawny port. And I guess just the last thing to mention is Taylor Fladgate. Oh, I guess we're moving to gift category. Sorry, jumped ahead.
All right.
The gift category, the Taylor Fladgate 20-year-old port was another welcome addition to the list. I still think it offers tremendous value at just under $72 for something. It has the sweetness you expect from port, but man, the complexity that you get from this 20-year-old port, like the nuttiness, the dried fruit, but still holding on to some of the freshness of a younger port, chocolate notes, prune notes. It's just like you're in flavor country, man.
I also think that, some of these will not come as a surprise to people. There will be some high-end California cabs in here. There's been Grand Selection wines from Italy in here. You're going to find, some Grand Vin. Can I give
Langbach. I see where you're going. I know we're going to get to what was a personal highlight for you and I, and our little Canadian hearts swelled in size, 3 sizes too big. But I know I'm a Paul Hobbs fanboy. But the Crossbarn Cabernet Sauvignon, obviously we saved some of the bottles to enjoy after the tasting. The following day, I had a glass of the Crossbarn that I had just left on the counter, like in the bottle. I actually had forgotten to put the cork back into that bottle, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna see if this Crossbarn is dead. It wasn't. It was soaring. I know you are not a terribly big fan of decanting because you like to see the journey of a wine.
I love the evolution over the course of an evening. I think it deserves. If a winemaker has made a good wine, I think it deserves us, or behooves us, to take the journey with that bottle.
Well, the Crossbarn the following day, after a significant amount of time, was just so much better. Like, you and I have tasted quite a few really baller Californian wines, and we're going to talk about that at the end of this as we wrap up the other stuff that we've been up to lately. But man, for $76 for what is basically the second label of the Paul Hobbs brand, this is a special gift, and I hope that I've been a good enough boy that Santa brings me one under my tree this year.
I knew you were going to like the Cross Barn, and yeah, I liked it. But I thought the best, bargain / value on that gift list that we have was probably the best wine I tasted, which was the Le Sinard Chateauneuf du Pape.
That was insane value.
Right at the top of my list at $44. This is a Chateauneuf du Pape at $44.
Yeah.
From Perrin, which is the Beaucastel. And this was just absolutely, to me, that's what I would want under my tree. And look, for the price of the Hobbs, you can buy me two. So you can buy Andrew one of his and two of mine.
I'll appreciate it twice as much. All right, now for the ultimate highlight. If there's any testament to the ultimate power of Pinot Noir from Ontario and the ultimate power of a cool vintage in Ontario, from Prince Edward County, the Rose Hall Run 2021 JCR Pinot Noir for $45. It stood up to everything, and even the cool vintage. Obviously, you don't scrutinize and review Pinot Noir the same way you do a Cab Sauvignon. We have a few California cabs that are on this list, but in terms of quality and complexity and just well put together, these Ontario wines stood toe to toe with wines that cost twice as much.
Yeah, we also had Westcott on there.
Man, I need to give a shout out to Casey, the winemaker at Westcott. I feel like we have not seen even remotely close to his best work. I've been drinking a lot of their wines lately, and it feels like every vintage is just okay, has Casey peaked? Is this it, or is it going to get better? And it's just regardless of vintage, it just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's $31.95, just their estate Pinot Noir.
And then we there's not a lot of white wine on this list. There is a Chablis, and there is actually an Ontario Chardonnay on that list as well that made it.
It just had so much depth to it, and it was another one. I know I used the word unctuous for that 1 pound per acre. This was an unctuous Chardonnay from a relative newcomer to Ontario, Blackbank Hill, $34.95, just stunning.
And then finally, I just highlight two more. One was from the Languedoc, was Chateau Piltalet, which we thought was from
you skipped the last Ontario one. This was the sneaky one that was sent to us as a bargain wine, and we moved it to the gift wines category.
Oh, where was that? Which one was that? What did I miss now?
That was the Piliteri Late Harvest Vidal at $15 a bottle.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Yeah, we moved it into gift because, man, you could just start buying that by the case. And, at $15, that's an easy gift because most people think of a dessert wine as a gift anyway.
I have never held back my disdain for Secret Santas. On top of that, I've never held back my disdain for Office Secret Santas. But if you're doing an Office Secret Santa, this is it's just a solid gift.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then there's a Croatian wine on the list. First time Croatia has shown up on the list for gift wines.
For gift wines, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Croatia's on the bargain list as well.
Oh, do they make the bargain list as well? So look at that. So Croatia shows up twice this year. So
good. Interesting.
Yeah. So I was just highlighting some countries that or wines that have never shown up before, which is interesting.
Okay, so I just let's move on. Make sure you keep an eye at TorontoLife.com. Michael and I will post it somewhere when these lists are out because we're tremendously
social media will come out. On Two Guys Talking Wine through our Instagram. It'll also be on Facebook on both of our channels, I'm sure.
Yeah. So you and I have had a hell of a month in terms of drinking some real icon wines. Just this week, we had a chance to sit down with the people from Joseph Phelps.
Yeah, the gentleman who came to town. We went to Opus Restaurant.
Yep.
And they opened up four different wines.
Oh, right. That's right. We had the Magnum at the end of the night.
Well, then five, because
oh, right.
you're forgetting the sparkling.
I am forgetting the sparkling. It was truly like a fantastic evening. Like, you and I, we get a chance to go to a lot of wine dinners. Some of them really are like truly memorable, and this was definitely one of them for a lot of reasons. So they poured us sparkling wine that's only available at the winery. So they brought it in for this dinner.
Yeah, like Ovation sparkling. They just don't export it.
Yeah, and it was vintage too. It was 2017.
Yeah, that was delicious. They called it champagne.
Yes,
I'm not surprised. They said, "Hey, would anybody like some champagne?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And didn't recognize the label, so from across the room you go, "Oh, I wonder what champagne that is." And then they did announce that it was from the winery itself. So sparkling wine.
Okay,
folks, sparkling wine.
So we got a chance to taste their Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yep. Joseph Phelps Cab was lovely. I thought that was a very approachable, juicy.
Oh, I agree. My favorite thing about the Cabernet Sauvignon that I think is worth noting is, as I've gone down the rabbit hole of working with the ADX Wine Company, I'm becoming more acutely aware of things like oak and oak use, the impact of oak flavors. I know from my experience with a lot of wineries in Ontario who have been using things like American oak or Hungarian oak, a lot of the barrels that are used in Ontario, the flavors really stick out like a sore thumb. Tasting the Joseph Phelps Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon was my second experience where it did not compute. It did not compute. It had, I think, what he said, about 40% American oak or 50% American oak on it. Actually, so I'm taking a look here. It's 50-50 French and American oak on the making of this wine, and it does not taste like the American oak. Like, when I say American oak and I say Henry of Pelham, your head goes right to Tobacco Noir and that, like, vanilla that blends with those red fruit flavors.
Yep.
This it was structured with soft, short tannins. It was, like, ready to drink now, but also definitely built for cellaring. I'm completely being forced to reevaluate what I think about oak use in winemaking.
Yeah, but you're also looking, I think, at a completely different region and fruit that usually can handle a little bit more American oak than I think the delicacy of what we see here in Ontario. Let's go with that.
Oh, completely.
I think that you shoot an American oak barrel at Ontario Chardonnay, and to me it's a killer.
Well, and I'm still not convinced that American oak and Chardonnay are a great match. I'm ready to have that challenged, and anyone listening to this podcast who works for an agency where your Chardonnay makers are using American oak and you think that it's a great match, I'd be more than happy to revisit that, because between Joseph Phelps and Penfolds, like, those are two wineries right now. It's just like, oh yeah, we use American oak and the wines are stunning. Going to
that Phelps, by the way, like what they call Cabernet Sauvignon is, one, their second wine.
Yes.
And two, is a blend.
Yes.
But they call it Cabernet, obviously, because it hits the mark that you can call Cabernet.
Yes.
But it is still a blend.
Do you have the assemblage there, or?
Actually, no. I've already put it in a box and sent it away.
Okay, so I mean, for California, it's 75% it has to be Cabernet Sauvignon, right?
Yeah.
But it definitely has the spirit. Like, the dominant flavors are Cabernet Sauvignon on this wine, and I mean, if you're buying a bottle of high quality California Cabernet Sauvignon, it tastes exactly like what you're hoping it would taste like.
And then we obviously moved on to the Insignia.
Yeah, we got to taste 3 vintages of Insignia, man, and like
you're welcome.
What do you mean you're welcome? It's not like you opened them for me.
They did the 2020, the 2021 and the 2019. And then it was very nice of Dave. I was having a conversation with him.
Yeah, Dave is the CEO, general manager,
something of that nature. We got to look that up. You probably have the email closer to you than I do. While I tell the story,
he's the state president.
Okay, so I was having the conversation with him about because he's talking about how they age and how wonderful they are, and etc. And I said, well, you should find out what the restaurant has. And so, he looked through the list and decided that we should open a 97. And that was showing wonderfully.
It's one of those things where, we've talked a little bit about the fact that, like, I've made some changes career-wise over the past few years. I can afford slightly nicer wines. I'm still not rushing out to spend $535 on a bottle of wine, which is what the Insignia costs. But I am not going to lie in terms of the density, and this is one where like we said, always is like your stupid little voice is stuck in my head forever, Michael. Is that these wines always taste better in the presence of the winemakers. You and I were wined and dined that night, but my wife really loves California Cabernet Sauvignon. I really love enjoying them with her. I think this one, like if I end up flush in a month next year, I might try to track down a bottle to put in the cellar for her for like that really special occasion. And I'm not just saying that because we were invited to this. Like, this wine was truly outstanding. One of the best Napa Valley wines I've ever had.
I actually liked the 19 over the 21. It was really interesting. I didn't know this. I don't know if you did, but they made the decision in 2020 not to make the wine.
Yes, because of smoke.
Fire.
Yep, fires.
Yep. So but the 19 I thought was nice, soft, elegant.
Yep.
Where I thought the 2021 was a little more, more rugged.
It was boxy, and like the tannins were a little bit boxy. Like, it wasn't like a big, massive tannin hit, but like, it was broad in the shoulders. It was more muscular, where the 19 had like just this beautiful elegance to it.
Yeah, there was a floral note to it. It was just one of those wines that I just was like, yeah, I could sip on this one all night, as long as somebody else is buying. I will, just keeping things moving along. You and I had a chance to go to Raw Wine for the first time. I really appreciate the invitation, that we got a chance to go, that we got a chance to check things out. It was interesting to just hear feedback from other people. Like, I found a couple of wines that I thought were good, but for the most part, just like not really my cup of tea in terms of most of the wines tasted. Being a gracious invitee, like, I think what we are seeing, whether the organizers of Raw Wine want to hear this or not, is that trends are starting to change. I was excited to go because of our interview with Xavier Amiro that we did last year, and the quality of those Loire wines, and then taking a look at my own cellar, seeing more natural wines, put that in air quotes, creeping into the cellar, like always French. I keep La Pierre Beaujolais in there. I keep Catherine and Pierre Breton from the Loire Valley there. You and I need to put an order together for Xavier Amiro, especially when you get back, just because I miss tasting those wines. But other than that, like it was just interesting to see, interesting demographic to see at that event. I noticed that from my perspective, the country that seems to be doing it properly seems to be France. I tasted a champagne that could not tell you whether it was raw or not, and who cares whether it was? It was delicious.
Yeah, the Blanc de Blanc. That's the one I told you to taste.
Yeah, and then I sent you over to a. He called himself a Beaujolais producer, but he's actually from Lubernon or whatever.
No, it was Côte Lyonnaise. So like 30 minutes west of Lyon, there's a little AOC that has, I think he said, like 30 producers. Let me just take a look if I can look that up.
And that was that when he was making Gamay and Chardonnay, and all of them for the most. No, I would say so. He had 6 wines. 5 out of the 6 I thought were
stunning,
really good.
Yeah, they were really good.
And then I went to a Rhone producer, and all three of the 4 were really good. So I think France has got it. You did a little bit of Italian. Because I'm going to be soaked in Italy for the next little while. I didn't do as much Italy this time. But I wanted to check out a little more France. But I think the old world has the raw wine system down a little bit more, and it went where you're not thinking as you're drinking it. It is a natural wine. It is just wine that happens to be natural, whereas opposed to where I find in the new world they want to, tout that it's natural wine, and that's why it's faulted.
Well, and here's the thing is, I think for some of the wines, it's just like, it wasn't even that the wines were faulted. It's just they were bad wines, full stop.
Yeah. So, and then they go, but it's natural, so it should be good. No, a natural wine, a good wine should be a good wine. And if it's natural, bonus. If
well,
it's not,
for me, it's not even bonus. It's just how it's made. It's like, it's the difference between, I guess at this point, the difference between an electric car and a gasoline car. It's just like, the process goes into it. Like, everything has a target market. It's just like, I guess this sort of mild idea that natural wine, because it's natural, is superior. We can put that myth to rest. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have conversations about sustainability in vineyards. I think you and I both completely agree with that. We want to see this industry last a long time. We don't want people putting harmful chemicals into vineyards. Owning a vineyard is, committing yourself. I think if you're a good vineyard owner, it's committing yourselves to making sure that those vines come back every year and produce the highest quality fruit possible. And for me, that's the beginning, middle, and end of what good winemaking is.
Yeah, it's got, put it this way, it's got to taste good. Period. Full stop.
All right, so not to end on a low note, but I think I need to set it up a little bit. You did me like a pretty big solid a couple weeks ago, and like, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks, but I said goodbye to my 14-year-old buddy, Sir Henry Von Asshole, the wonder puggle, who has stolen food from, I think, virtually everyone who walked through my door. Now, even if you never had food in your hand, suddenly you could find food on you. That's actually true. Like, people who have had like crumbs in their pocket, like the dog would bury his face into your pocket. He was a very good bad dog, and I think most people would agree with that. But I loved him very much. But you and I, like, we've had a year. I think we've had a lot of ups. We've had some downs, and I think we definitely had some downs heading into November. I don't know if you want to talk about yours, but like, for me, losing Henry was a pretty big hole in my heart. But you showed up at my house with a 2017 Ridgemont Bello in a Magnum.
Yeah, I know how much you hate that wine, so it was unfortunate that you ended up liking it, and I had to share it.
It's just like it's been one of those things where it's just like, I know we've talked about over the years about like how you feel about value in wine, and like making sure you're value driven and making sure the recommendations we make are value driven for customers. But like, I'm like firmly back on the Montebello wagon, where it still hurts my heart, and it's just like going back to when I visited the winery like 10 years ago when that wine was $150-$160. It's just like, I should have found a way to buy a bottle or two bottles at that price to put into my cellar, because now it's like $350. But seeing how that wine has evolved, I think next chance I get, I'm gonna have to pick it up. Like, this wine is legit. Like, it is what it is. It's the icon for damn good reason. And
you've got to think that the wines that we buy, the wines that we get, we are drinking. This is not. You don't have an investment cellar. At least I don't think you've got anything that you're going, oh, I'm going to be investing that, or I hope that it improves in price.
No, it's the whole idea that, like, when I worked in radio as long as I did, is that, like, I never thought I would be making enough money to afford like baller wines. And the thing is, I don't know if this part of my career is going to continue forever. So the way I look at it is, it's an investment in my future happiness. And it's just like, I'm buying some more Premier Cru Burgundy from producers that I like, that I love, that I've visited. And, with yours and now Thomas Batchelder's stupid little voices in the back of my head, terroir. Like, I'm finally getting an understanding of like certain sites in Burgundy that I actually enjoy buying. Just if I see Pernon Vergelès Souffretil on a bottle, I will buy it, because now I have a few producers that are working with that particular vineyard in Pernon Vergelès, and another one, Savigny-les-Beaunes Auguette. Like, this is another one where I've tasted wines from 2-3 producers from this particular vineyard, and it's just like, it's cool when you've interviewed Thomas as many times as you and I have, to have some of that knowledge stick. and I didn't realize that it had stuck until like you taste these wines from different producers, and it's just like, oh, this is what Thomas is talking about. And I still am convinced that this whole terroir site driven approach to tasting, buying, making wine is the future of Niagara, and will help cement the quality and the direction of the premiumization of Ontario wines. Our future, I think, really depends on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that was a bit of a rant, but it's just like, I guess it's sort of all. So these are the things that I think about when we're drinking, Icon and baller wines. But thank you so much for sharing that with me. You're off to Europe for what we think is about 5 months.
As I said, I'm doing this. One of the first things I'm going to be doing is this Nizza, which is Cru Barbera.
Okay.
And I got in touch with a really lovely lady named Tessa at Vincchio Vaglio, and she's putting together this. And the reason I tell you this because I think you're going to find this funny. She's putting together this very nice itinerary for me for the region, and the first thing she has me going to, believe it or not, is a chocolate factory. And I'm like, how did you know I like chocolate, right? So, although I suspect if you look at me, you probably go, yeah, he probably likes chocolate.
Maybe we should do, like, you're bringing a recorder with you. Try to get some tape if it works out. Because chocolate's one of those other products that really is terroir driven. My wife and I, we went to the Valrhona chocolate in the Côte du Rhône, and now that we own a bakery, like, I have access to this really high-end chocolate wholesale. It doesn't usually make it into the croissants. I literally have a container on my counter that's like a cookie jar, but it's just filled with chocolate. But I know for me, I haven't tasted enough chocolate to know the terroir of what I like, but I do know that I like a certain amount of like milk in my milk chocolate. I like a dark milk chocolate, which is about 45% cocoa to milk ratio. So I'm curious to see what you're going to learn, if anything, at the chocolate factory.
I think mine goes up to 80. I'm about 85. I can handle 85% dark.
I prefer mine a little sweeter, a little milkier. Oh, and if you show up at this chocolate factory, Michael, and a bunch of people come out and start singing every time the host, introduces a new part of the factory, you get the hell out of there, because it is a death trap, and you do not have the restraint to not touch something you're not supposed to.
If they're in orange face, I will look. I will make sure. I'll take
just run, just like scream and run out of there, because like, dude, you're gonna end up like Augustus Gloop and end up in the river of chocolate, and it's just gonna mess things up. If they have
a river of chocolate, I'll back away slowly.
All right. Well, we hope everyone enjoyed our Toronto Live column. Keep your eyes open for that. We are now into December. I think you and I will probably get together. I think we'll wait until you're in Europe, because I do enjoy our wrap ups that we do. And like let's take a look at because we had some really great interviews this year.
We did. We had some really good interviews, and we're gonna because you're gonna be in Portugal and I will be in Europe. You may find us doing a little more on the what do you call them? Documentary style.
Yes.
Podcasts.
If I can give like a small plug, I've got another podcast called Tasting Together. I think at some point over the holidays, we'll probably do what we call in Canada land a feed drop, where we're going to get a Two Guys Talking wine on that feed and a Tasting Together on this feed, just so you guys can see what we're up to. But I've been experimenting with some documentary style audio storytelling, and people seem to really like it. It's something that I've learned from Canada land. We're going to try with Michael to get you to do it. I'm probably going to do Dry January again.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good palate cleanse. Our interview with Andrew Baldwin and Penwell. I'm just taking a look at what we did last year. Andrew Baldwin.
Well, okay, you do Dry January, and I will drink for you while I'm in Bordeaux.
I want you to enjoy it, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I actually gave some recommendations to Krister of some chateaus that even he hasn't been to, so I know some stuff that Krister Bicklum doesn't.
It's because he's dealing with first and second growth stuff.
We tasted tequila this year. Hang on, taking a look at we've had a
so
really
if you like to actually tequila podcast was very much a documentary style
yes
podcast. So if you like that style of podcast, that's some of them this year are going to be in that style, just based on not both of us not being in the same place at the same time.
And that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 5 months look like. Like, this is going to be an adventure for Two Guys Talking Wine. But like, I don't know, if you're a listener, I'd be excited about what Michael and I are going to try to do. We're focused and more determined than ever to make this podcast the best ever for 2025. And I think I can reflect on 2024 and think we did a hell of a job. But if you don't think so, when we did our special announcement podcast earlier, we really did appreciate the feedback from everyone. We appreciate the support as well. In spite of like a lot of people saying we don't need to, we're still going to work on making sure our language is tidied up and that we're delivering the highest quality content that we can.
And then if all else fails, my name will become Jake and yours will become Elwood.
Oh yeah.
And,
that's it. I mean, okay. So that's the thing is like we've got some stuff in the works for next year.
So,
well, I guess
André,
on that note,
it's been a pleasure tasting with you. It's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a pleasure.
Geez, we still have like 2 more episodes before the end of the year, right? Like I know we're making. Really? I think it's just because like we're both getting ready to get on a plane that it's just like it feels like a bit of a final thing, but like no. What we're going to do is, so your homework, Michael, is to take a look at what your favorite episodes were. If you're listening to this and you had a favorite episode, send us a note. We'll actually read your email. I'm André at andrewinereview.ca. That's not just my call. That's actually my email, André at andrewinereview.ca.
And I'm Michael at michaelpinkuswinereview.com.
Oh, God. We never realized that like every episode we've been giving out our email address.
Yeah,
but never said it that
theoretically, yeah.
And if you're worried you didn't catch it, it'll be in the show notes, so check that out. Maybe take us away on that note, Michael.
Sure. Again, didn't realize we had a couple more to do, but I suspect we'll end the year on a bang, or a good bottle of wine. Anyway, André, thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Jim Ray, Adam Duran, and Ken Little.